Welcome back guys to another video. Today we are so excited to present to you Trap 2 with its behind the scenes. So what we're going to touch on once again is still going to remain the same, beginning from the camera setup, the lighting configuration, whether you use natural light or artificial light. This time we actually blended them. The locations and overall our experience on set. So let's begin with the camera setup. We maintained the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro on the Crane 3S, being maintained as our gimbal for stabilization purposes as well as a tripod in some instances during the shoot. We shot on the 18 to 35mm Sigma Art lens to give us a variety of focal lengths to play with. And because it opens as wide, we could shoot in low light situations. Pertaining to the locations, we maintain the same number as Trap 1. We have two locations here as well, which the first is a restaurant premises where we shot majority of the film, and the second location is the very same room that we used in Trap 1. Talking about lighting, we blended artificial light with natural light. Where here in the restaurant premises, because we were racing against time and lighting, the sun wasn't going to be there forever, so we had to push some light back into the shadowy areas in the face of the subject in some instances, especially in the face of this female actress, because she had the light right behind her, the natural light was coming from the window behind her, and occasionally we used artificial light to also create a rim lighting to separate both male actors in this very same scene who are being lit predominantly and primarily by the natural light coming from the window. So with the help of camera movement and a lot of angles that were being shot, we were able to create something cinematic. Some shots were really wonderful. However, one major challenge that I noticed was that because as a cinematographer and the DOP, having in mind my composition, I needed to add some bit of interest in the frame, especially with this low angle shot where I needed to include some practical lights which were available lights in the space, the restaurant space falling from the ceiling. Because relatively in proximity, the ceiling is quite high from the subject, and the angle that I could go to frame the table as well as the window, the light coming through, and everything else that's composed in the frame at the moment, it was quite challenging. The practical light up above was quite difficult to angle, so I actually had to stoop and sometimes get in contact with the floor with my entire body to film and to also see the framing as I shot. Everything that we filmed in the restaurant premises was wonderful, but what we didn't anticipate particularly was the sound. It sounded quite good. We've had an experience with shooting in a space where there are a lot of air conditioners, which creates a lot of humming noise. When you get back during post-production, you notice that so much. But this time around, it was a lot more because the space wasn't cushioned, it wasn't soundproofed, but it had a lot of solid surfaces, the tiles, the ceiling, the concrete walls, and everything. Especially with the glass that was closest to the subject, the sound bounced off of all these hard surfaces and it created a lot of echo. Secondly, because this is a restaurant premises and the kitchen was quite close to the set, you could hear a lot of noise from the kitchen as well as customers who came through. We planned to get there very early to shoot this because most of the time during working hours, because we shot on a weekday, we didn't expect so many people to come through. And true to our expectations, it was just like so. But as we kept on shooting, we couldn't beat time to exactly how we scheduled for the second location. So customers were trooping in here and there after working hours, and so there were a lot of noise. Sometimes you had to periodically go talk to some of them, plead on the behalf of the set so that we could keep on shooting without so much external noise. So the issue that stuck out so much was the noise in the restaurant space. But thankfully we were able to navigate and we were able to use the sound regardless. With the help of some tools and with our expert on the sound, Max made, he was able to clean out most of the noise, and we added some ambience with the street and also an ambience of a space as such. So listening to the audio of this part of the film, you're going to notice the ambience of a restaurant setting.
I didn't get your name.
Sorry, I'm Shirley.
Beautiful as you are.
Okay, I think that's enough for today. Let's have a real conversation, shall we?
Our artificial light, I almost forgot to mention, was softened by a softbox, so it was diffused so that we could mimic light that's being bounced off of ceilings, off of the tiles, and off of the white walls that were present in the space. However, we still made sure that we added our creativity to it. So carving the subject out of the background was very important to us, and so in some instances in close-up framing, we had to pull the lights closer to the subject so that it could rim them because it's softened, and so if you draw the light back or you push it backwards, you will barely see the rim light appearing in the shot. So just before 7 p.m. we're able to finish the shoot at the first location, and we headed to the second, which is here, the room that we are all familiar with if you watched Trapped 1. So here we used 2 lights. We maintained the light from the softbox, and sometimes we shot the light against the ceiling to flood the entire room with lighting, because in a room as such you're definitely going to have lights from the ceiling, and so we needed to diffuse the light and spread it across. And thankfully the space is painted white, and so light reflects and it illuminated the room to our taste. So yeah, the light perfectly mimicked light coming from the ceiling and the light that's present in a bedroom with white walls and the ceiling. The room wasn't big enough to move around, and so we needed to find a way to still create some wonderful frames regardless of the space restraints. So I playfully used some props in the room, one being the standing fan, which I pushed into the right side of the frame in the shot, and I pulled focus from the subject as she pushed forward out of the frame towards the left, and then I pulled the focus to the standing fan. Now I see it clearly, just to make the next cut look different because it looks quite similar. We used some ridiculous props in this particular location, first being the elephant in the room, the loaf of bread. We realized in some of the comments down the comment section below of the film when we released it, I think a day or 2 afterwards, was that people were fascinated and amused about the type of bread that we used. Here, the character in question who brought the bread into the room has something mischievous up his sleeve, and so he was supposed to be reared all the way across, and that's exactly what we intended to do. But I didn't really get to the audience as much because probably some didn't watch the first part to actually understand the character of the male actor who brought in the loaf of bread. Fine, it looks funny, but it had to make sense because we needed to also include a bread knife, just like you're seeing right now, into the film. In some of the shots we used the second light that was coming from the left hand side, especially in this scene where the character is speaking to another character on phone. To make the scene interesting and to mimic a standing light or a lamp from the left hand side, we used the YN300 III LED panel light and turned it to warm so that it would look different and conspicuous up against the daylight temperature light that was available and illuminating the entire space. We needed to reduce the intensity so that it doesn't overshadow the entire space. Even though we wanted it to be seen, we still had to dial it down to make it more cohesive in the scene and not too projectile that it will distract you from the character and the entire space. Yeah, we were able to finish this even though it couldn't go according to schedule. We were totally exhausted and the characters were just done. Just look at their faces. They were given their submission during this time, and that was around 3:20 a.m. Imagine this. We also needed to get more creative, so we wanted to add this scene where we mimicked a rainfall, right? So the sound that you hear in this particular scene and shot suggests that it was raining. But the interesting part here is how we created the rain. So we didn't have to step into the rain, of course, or create any scene where we drenched the character, but this time around she was indoors and we just needed to show some shadows looking like water drooling down the glass in the window. When light shoots against anything and something obstructs its way, it casts shadows. So just like you see in this shot, you notice that there are a lot of wriggling water shadows there, and this is exactly how we filmed it. So I had my brothers come into the space where we're filming this. This is just the hall in my home. We held one glass plane, shot the light bare through it to cast some light against the subject, and with the help of a bottle containing water, we drooled the water down as it trickled across the glass plane. And with the light shooting through, the water drooling down cast the shadow to mimic rainfall from outside. Thank you very much if you could watch all the way to this point. We are really grateful. We love you guys, and we're gonna catch you in the next video. Have a wonderful day. See ya.